Oh boy, Sticker Star. Sticker Star isn't a bad game, but it's definitely a bad Paper Mario game. And that's just really disappointing. This could have been good. It just needed good Mario RPG elements and less forgettable worlds. And speaking of the worlds, we're ranking them today. We're ranking all 6 worlds from Sticker Star. And the worlds are basically just the first number when you look at a level. So 1-1, that's World 1. 2-1, that's World 2. I don't know why I had to explain that. I'm pretty sure you guys know how it works. But let's get started. But before we actually get started, I am still trying to get 1,000 subscribers before summer break starts. We're on a roll right now, and I think we're gonna hit it, but I want to hit it as fast as possible. I'd really appreciate that. So if you know a Mario RPG fan that isn't subscribed, or you're not subscribed yourself, please hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. But other than that, let's start. Oh god, World 5. I have so much to unpack. Every single level is either confusing or really boring, except for one of them, but I'm pretty sure you know exactly what that level is. But let's talk about every single level. Every single one deserves to be talked about here. So let's start with 5-1. 5-1 is a good concept, or at the very least, it's a good level setup. These Shy Guys take away bridge parts, which means that you have to just get the bridge back together trying to get these bridge parts. There's only 3, but it's definitely a bit more difficult than you think. And mainly more difficult because it's annoying. Well, first off, the first 2 are fine. The one that's in the middle and the one that's on the right, it's fine. But one of them, you have to use a thing card. Now, I personally thought, okay, you cannot repeat thing cards in this game. There's no need. There's so many, not even ones behind mystery doors, that you could have used. But no, it was the vacuum again. Again. You already used it in 2-4, but no, you have to repeat it. Even though there's a ton of things in this game, you have to reuse the vacuum. I used so many things until I used the vacuum. And I was just irritated at the game, and it felt so lazy that you're repeating a thing. It's so irritating because maybe you could use a vacuum again throughout the game. Of course not, and thank God for it. But it's so dumb that you have to repeat using a thing. But let's move on before I get a bit too mad. So let's talk about 5-2. 5-2 is voided content. There's nothing here. All you're doing is just riding down a stream. But I mean, it does kind of feel like practice for 5-3, so I'll let it slide a bit. It's still boring though, so 5-2 isn't that great. Moving on to 5-3, it could have worked. I think the Cheep boss, I know it's not a Cheep, but I cannot think of the name of that specific Cheep. So the Cheep is trying to chase you, trying to break down your raft. It's unsuccessful because I'm just so good at this game, and it's also kind of easy to dodge it. It's very slow as well, which is just not a fun boss because of it. But the thing is that you have to do this world twice. You have to do this level twice. So, you have to fight the Cheep boss twice. The problem with this is that since I already know how to defeat it, it's already slow, and now it's going to just become extremely repetitive and boring. And that's exactly how I feel about it. The other thing, though, is that you have to paperize to get through, to actually get to 5-4. You have to go through an entrance that isn't paperized. The problem with it is that it's just in the moment where you have to paperize, and I never really thought about paperizing when I'm on the raft. I'm just focusing on trying to go somewhere. But of course, this game has to be confusing, right? So, you have to paperize randomly. Yeah, I hate 5-3 so much. I hate that you have to paperize just randomly. I just randomly did it, and I found it. I actually think I looked up a guide when I replayed it 2 months ago. That's not good, when you have to look up a guide for something like that. Then there's 5-4. We get a break. 5-4 is decent. I don't like the Chain Chomp boss at the top, but it's still better than the levels that we've talked about, so I'm glad we get that break. Then there's 5-5. Probably my least favorite level in the game. I was so mad. I was so mad when I was dealing with this level. Because I was looking up a guide for 5-5 because I didn't know what thing to use for the erupting volcano. So I just thought like, okay, you know, I don't know what to use. I'll look up a guide. And apparently they used the air conditioner. I think it was Zat Scott Games that I looked up. So he used the air conditioner, which I was confused. I didn't know where it would be. Of course, it's behind a mystery door. So I got infuriated. I was so mad that you had to try to find thing cards behind mystery doors. The mystery doors, to me, felt like a side quest. And now I know that you also use the refrigerator, so that's a good thing. But that's so dumb that I first thought that you had to use a mystery door in 5-4 to get the air conditioner. That's so stupid, and I was so infuriated at the time. I still don't really like the level that much, it's still really boring. Then there's 5-6. 5-6 is not that bad, but I don't like the chain chomp concept. I don't like the second one where you have to put it to sleep randomly. Who uses the Ba Hammers? Who randomly uses them? That's my problem with it. It's so specific, the answer that it actually is. You have to use Ba Hammers on a chain chomp. That doesn't make sense at all. That's so confusing, and I don't like it because of that. But at the very least, World 5 does have PD Piranha. PD Piranha is a pretty good boss from this game. Probably in the top 3 bosses. So, it was definitely an enjoyable experience in that regard. It was a good ending to this really crappy world. I do not like World 5 at all. This was a really long segment, but there's just so much to talk about with World 5. I genuinely hate it. I hope I don't hate the next segment. World 3. So I'm pretty sure that this is the most hated world in Sticker Star, which makes sense to me. I mean, this isn't my least favorite world, but I still don't like it. Other worlds try to only have 5 or 6 levels. Even my least favorite world, World 5, only has 6 levels. Here, there's 11 levels. 11. We got into the double digits with this level amount. That's so stupid because most of the levels here are going to be forgettable. Just naturally because there's so many of them. I mean, the only levels that I actually remember is Wiggler's house. I remember the spider level. I remember Sniff It or Whiff It. And I remember the last level of this world where I had to fight Gooper Blooper. And Gooper Blooper is a really good highlight. I really enjoy the Gooper Blooper fight, but that's for a different video. And I actually enjoy Sniff It or Whiff It as well. Those two are probably my biggest highlights of World 3. But oh my god, this world otherwise is nothing. There's nothing here. All you're doing in this world mainly is just finding the 4 Wiggler segments. And that's it. That's all you're doing. I mean, I guess you could say that you're trying to cure the poison of this world, but all you're doing is finding the Wiggler segments. You kind of forget about that because you're so focused on getting the Wiggler segments. And they don't feel different. None of them feel different, so that basically means that you're doing the same task 4 times in a row, which is going to become really repetitive. Also, there's a decent amount of backtracking. And even though there's so many levels in this world, it feels extremely linear once you get towards the end, which is so odd because it feels so open. But no, there's just nothing here. It's one path. If you don't do something in that one path, you're not going to be able to cross it, which is not fun, especially for stuff like 3-10 with the last Wiggler part. I didn't actually go behind the bush to find that Wiggler part, so I went to 3-11, and I didn't find the Wiggler. The Wiggler part was normally supposed to be there, but it wasn't. So I looked up a guide, and I saw that it was there. So I had no idea what I did wrong. So I looked back in 3-10, and randomly it was there. Now, obviously the Wiggler segment did pop up off the bush, but I didn't see it, because I'm a blind bat, apparently. So yeah, I don't like World 3 at all. It's just very confusing, and at the very least, everyone kind of agrees that this world is extremely forgettable. There needed to be less levels, and probably condense all these levels to maybe 8. 8 levels is still a lot, but it's definitely better than having 11 of them. Oh my god, World 1 is so boring. It's probably the most boring world in Sticker Star, maybe even in a Paper Mario game. Seriously, it's so boring. There's nothing here. I mean, all there really is that's actually memorable in my eyes is the windmill, there's the final level here, and then the chapter boss. That's the only 3 things I remember from World 1. I mean, all this place is the plains level, and then the castle. I've mentioned this before, this is the main format for a first chapter or a first world in a Paper Mario game. But the problem here is that it's so extremely bare bones. Literally, the description that I have for that format is exactly how World 1 is for Sticker Star, where in other games like Origami King or the Thousand Year Door, their World 1/Chapter 1s are actually more interesting than just a plains level and then a castle. I mean, at Thousand Year Door, there's Hooktail, and then there's Koops. In Origami King, I really like colored pencils, and I really enjoy the Overlook Tower. But here, what is there? I mean, there's basically nothing. I mean, the final level here isn't bad. It's definitely decent. It has decent puzzles, like the wind puzzles and the Bob-ombs. But that's it. That's all there is. I mean, the chapter boss here is extremely forgettable and pretty boring. It's just a horde of Goombas that combines into one, and then you just use the fan. There's nothing here. Nothing here is in World 1. There's nothing. And that's why it's at number 4. There needed to be more content. There's just nothing. And that's why it's bad to me. World 6 has 2 levels. 2. And it beat 3 of the worlds that we talked about. 3. And I do have a reason for this. The thing is that these 2 levels are decent. They're actually decent, which is so nice to talk about. I mean, the airship level is genuinely good. I mean, it has good puzzles, and I like that it's in an airship. I do think that the reliance on tails is a bit weird, because you don't get tails throughout the entire game. Like, you just get them now, and you use all of them for the Bowser Jr. fight. It's very odd, but at the very least, it works, because you get just a surplus of them, which means that you'll barely ever run out. That's a good thing. And then the castle is fine. I mean, there's barely anything in it except for the Kamek fight and the final Bowser fight. I'm not going to talk about the quality of the final Bowser fight. That deserves to be talked about in the boss ranking for this game. Like, I need a whole segment for that fight. But the Kamek fight is fine. Like, it's fine. It works. And the thing is that the main reason why it's at number 3, even though there's only 2 levels, is that the average quality equates to decent. That is why it's at number 3, because the quality average for the other worlds that we talked about have either been or bad. That's why that this world is above, and it's why it's in the top half, which is actually a pretty good thing, because the last 2 worlds that we're going to talk about have some pretty good quality levels, which means the quality average is going to be good, which is going to be fun to talk about. I'm glad that this is kind of the segue from bad levels to good levels. Even though World 6 has so little content, at the very least the content that we have is decent, and that's why it's at number 3. World 2 is good! Finally, we're onto a good world, but I gotta say that there definitely are some major problems keeping it out of number 1. The number 1 doesn't have any major problems. Obviously, no world is problem-free, but they only have minor problems. The number 1 only has minor problems, where World 2, we have some problems that we have to talk about. Well, first off, 2-4. I don't like the level at all. Well, first off, you have to get rid of the Dust Devil, the Sand Tornado, with a vacuum cleaner. How does that make sense? That doesn't make sense at all. Why would you use a vacuum cleaner for that specifically? At least in 5-1, where you have to get rid of the trash, at least it kind of makes sense. But for a Dust Devil, that doesn't make sense at all. But I guess I can kind of let it slide, because there's definitely less things compared to later in the game. But the other thing is that I don't like building the building in 2-5. I think that trying to get every single piece isn't great. I think that the first 2, the one in 2-4 and the one in the Yoshi Sphinx, is pretty good, but I don't like the one in 2-1 where you have to sink under striped cactuses. It's really out of place and it's really odd. I don't even know how I found out when I replayed the game. I don't even know how I found out about it. Maybe it was on a sign, maybe it was from an NPC. I don't know at all. But here's the thing. Everything else about this world is pretty enjoyable. Yoshi Sphinx is my favorite level from World 2. It has a really good layout and it's really creatively designed. I also like World 2-3, where you're literally just going through a maze in, I guess, a catacomb, and it's really fun. I also like 2-5, I really like the puzzles there, and I even think that 2-1 works. It's not stellar, it doesn't have anything that stands out, but at the very least, it's a level that works to me, and I think that the pyramid at the end is also kind of enjoyable to navigate up. But the thing is that 2-4 kind of sinks this world a bit, and I do think that building the tower is definitely annoying for, I guess, your first playthrough. So because of this, it can't be at number 1. But let's talk about that number 1 now. World 4 is as close to flawless as you can get. I enjoy World 4 quite a bit. I mean, 4-1 is pretty good. It's just a really enjoyable level that's very simple. 4-2 is also pretty good. 4-3 is my favorite level in the game, where I had to hunt all the boos. That's also really enjoyable. I also don't really like the big boo fight that much, but if you prepare by getting a decent amount of spike helmets, then I think the fight works pretty well. I also enjoy 4-5 with the ski lift. It's a pretty enjoyable ride. I also enjoy 4-6 with its minecarts and its lines of Shy Guys. I think that's pretty creative. I also like that the Shy Guys don't really focus on attacking you. That's why I really enjoy World 4. I also think that the boss here is decent. The Snowman is a decent boss. It's not great, I think that PD Piranha and Blooper is just better, but it's not a bad boss, which is good. And that is why I enjoy World 4. There's just so many things that I really enjoy about World 4. I mean, it has 4-3. 4-1 just is a great place to farm good stickers. And in general, it just has a really good atmosphere and music. I love World 4. Thank you guys for watching this video. My next video will probably be on Sticker Star as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's longer even though it's only 6 segments, but I still hope you enjoyed it. And I am still trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed yet and you lasted this long, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.